Hey everyone, today I'm talking about the 65th distribution in the DistroWatch ranking. Yes, you heard that right, 65th, and honestly, I really struggle to believe it. Ahead of it, we find names like ArtOS, Knoppix, Modisha, Artix, which by the way is no longer even developed, Fun2, Archcraft, Ultimate, Exton, Commodore, Linux FX, DragonOS, MiniOS, Bezite, and it doesn't stop there. There's also Light, Alt, Tails, Voyager, and even Pika OS, which, incredibly, is ranked higher than Arch Linux, which I believe sits around the 30th position. And then there are Chip, Uncle Scrooge, and all his nephews. Come on, tell me if any of this makes sense. Because today we're talking about one of the best Linux distributions ever created. The quintessence of the rolling release. A serious, independent project built with simplicity, precision, and intelligence. And these would be the results? Really 65th? In over 20 years, I've tested, and I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of distributions. And if we count all the variants and versions, we easily reach the thousands. But rarely, perhaps never, have I seen a project so clear, so straightforward, so faithful to the KISS philosophy, capable of combining originality, modernity, solidity, and simplicity. Void Linux deserves a place of honor. It deserves to sit among the giants of the Linux ecosystem. And yes, it's true, it's ranked 65th, but that number doesn't represent its value. It represents instead the level of hype that dominates today's ecosystem. However, this isn't meant to be a rant, even if the intro might sound like one. Today, I'll guide you step by step through the discovery of this project that I admit has truly won me over. And believe me, that doesn't happen easily. We'll see how to install it, maintain it, manage it, and I assure you, you'll discover a distribution much more accessible than you might think. Sure, you need some experience, but even a user coming from Windows with a decent familiarity with computers can install and manage it without much trouble. Because Void Linux isn't just an operating system, it's a philosophy of purity and coherence within the Linux world. Let's start by downloading the distribution. Obviously, just go to the official Void Linux website, a website that, at first glance, perfectly reflects the philosophy of the distribution. No banners, no sponsors, no useless images, just substance, and plenty of it. It's a simple, professional, and coherent site, just like the system it represents. Because yes, a distribution presents itself to the world through its website. Of course, a bad-looking site doesn't necessarily mean a bad project. Look at Debian. Its website is essential, almost archaic, yet behind it stands one of the cornerstones of free software. But when form and content align, you can feel the coherence. And in Void's case, it's genuinely pleasant to see and navigate. Everything is well organized, clearly structured, and easy to access. And it's important to point this out. Void Linux is not a fork. It's an independent distribution, a stable rolling release, and it states that openly, without exaggeration, without marketing slogans, just precise technical explanations. At the bottom of the site, you'll find a very interesting section about the package manager and the project's technical principles, written in a direct yet rigorous way. And this brings us to a key point, the choice between muzzle and new libc. Void Linux offers two main variants, one based on glibc, the standard GNU library that ensures maximum compatibility with most software, and one based on muzzle, lighter, cleaner, and faster, designed for those who want an essential, optimized system. There's no right choice. It depends on what you want from your system. The glibc version is more compatible, while muzzle is more minimal and aligned with the KISS philosophy. In the manual section, everything is explained beautifully. I know reading a manual isn't the most exciting thing in the world, but in this case, it's worth it. It's clear, complete, and helps you understand how the system works. Sometimes, reading a bit doesn't hurt. So let's move on to the download. Again, you can see the project's intelligence at work. No huge banners, no confusing menus, no ads. Just click on your architecture, x86-64, ARM, or whatever you need, and you'll immediately find direct links to the ISO images. Everything is clear, clean, perfectly KISS style. Personally, I find it beautiful. For this guide, we'll download the XFCE Live image, perfect for a complete, lightweight graphical installation. I'll assume you already know how to boot a live USB, but if not, there are thousands of guides online explaining how to do it in a few steps. It's simple. Write the ISO image to a USB stick and set the boot order from the BIOS or UEFI. Each PC manufacturer uses different key combinations to open the boot menu. It might be F12, ESC, F8, or something else. So I recommend looking up the specific shortcut for your model. Once you've done that, you're ready to boot into Void Linux and begin the installation. When you start the live CD, you'll immediately notice something. Void Linux is incredibly fast. It's one of the very few distributions that never feels like you're in a live session. Everything responds instantly without hesitation. You can immediately feel how optimized it is. The XFCE environment is as usual, comfortable, lightweight, familiar, and reliable, the perfect balance between simplicity and functionality. To launch the Void installer, just open the terminal and type sudo void-installer. Once you hit enter, an interactive text-based installer will appear, and personally, I find it outstanding. It's fast, logical, and rational. It's a perfect example of how things should be done. No heavy web interfaces, no confusing graphics, no procedures that make you jump through hoops just to go back. Here, everything is immediate. You move between fields with the arrow keys, up, down, left, right, and select with the spacebar or enter. Every option, up to the last installation step, can be modified at any time. At first glance, the interface might look a bit Spartan, but after a few minutes, you'll realize it's a gem of efficiency. Once you get used to it, you'll install Void Linux with your eyes closed. And that's the beauty of it. From the clarity of the website, to the simplicity of the download, to the smoothness of the installer, everything in Void follows a coherent, clean, essential logic. There are no rough edges. Void Linux may or may not be your cup of tea, but no honest Linux user can deny it's a great project, built with care, discipline, and skill. Inside the installer, you'll find several well-organized and easy-to-navigate sections: keyboard, network, source, mirror, hostname, locale, time zone, user account, bootloader, partition, file system, install. You can move freely between them using the arrow keys or by selecting them directly. Everything is immediate and straightforward. For example, if you're in the keyboard section and want to set the American layout, just type the letter U to jump directly to US. It's all very intuitive and streamlined. You proceed like this, configuring each option: keyboard, network, time zone, root password, username, and so on. Everything clear, everything logical. The three most delicate sections, however, are bootloader, partition, and file system. Now this guide is divided into two parts, two different scenarios. The first one is a pure installation, without dual boot, just as if you were installing Void Linux as the only operating system on your computer. The second one is a more realistic dual boot setup, where Linux or Windows are already installed, even in situations where a bootloader already exists. Now we've reached the step about the bootloader. The system asks where to install it. In my case, I only have one disk, dev SDA, so I select that and hit enter. If you have more than one drive connected, be careful here. Choose the one where you actually want Void installed. Once you've selected it, a message appears asking whether you want to use a graphical terminal for the bootloader. Select yes and confirm with enter. Now we move to what for many users is the most intimidating part: partitioning the disk. Don't worry, it's actually much easier than it looks. From the installer menu, select the drive where you want to install Void, in this example dev SDA, and press enter. The installer now asks which tool you'd like to use for partitioning. Choose CF disk. It's simple, visual, and intuitive, and confirm with enter. If your disk is new or empty, you'll be prompted to choose a partition table type. Select GPT and press enter. Now you're inside the CF disk interface. At the top, you'll see your drive's layout. At first, just a line that says free space. Select it, and from the bottom menu, choose New to create the first partition. This first partition will be your EFI partition, required for booting on UEFI systems. Type 300 megabytes as the size and hit enter. With that partition still selected, go down to Type, and from the list choose EFI system. That tells the installer this is your boot partition. Perfect. The first part is done. Now go back to free space again, and once more choose New. This time, we'll create the swap partition. Type 4 gigabytes and press enter. Then go down to Type, select Linux Swap, and confirm. This will make sure the swap space is automatically recognized after installation. At this point, all we have left is the root partition, the heart of the system. Select Free Space, choose True New, and hit Enter again. Leave the default size so it takes up all the remaining space, and confirm. Now your table should look perfect. The EFI system partition, the swap, and the root taking up everything else. Now it's time to save everything we've done. Select Write from the menu below and hit Enter. When the installer asks for confirmation, type Yes and press Enter. Your new partition layout is now written to disk. Once done, select Quit to exit CF disk. We return to the installer menu and now we need to create the file systems. The first partition we'll configure is dev SDA1, the EFI one. Select it and hit Enter. When the program asks which file system to use, choose VFAT. That's the FAT32 format required by UEFI. Press Enter again, and now it asks for a mount point. Type boot/EFI and confirm with Enter. Next, select dev SDA2, the swap partition. Choose Swap as the file system type and confirm. That's all you need. It'll automatically handle itself. Finally, select the last one, dev SDA3, our root partition. Choose ext4, a stable and reliable file system, perfect for general use. Hit Enter, and when prompted for the mount point, type just a single / and confirm. That's your root directory. Now everything's ready, the partitions, the file systems, the mount points. Scroll down to Done and hit Enter. Then move to Install and press Enter once more to start the actual installation. You'll be asked one final time for confirmation. Select Yes and confirm. Now Void begins copying the system files to your disk. You'll see text scrolling as the packages are installed and configured. Base system, kernel, modules, everything. It's all automatic, and it usually takes just a few minutes. Void's installer is incredibly efficient, minimal, clear, and fast. Once everything is finished, a message appears confirming that the installation was successful. Press Enter on OK, and then Yes when asked if you want to reboot. Remove your USB stick when the system restarts, otherwise you'll boot into the live session again. And now the moment of truth. After rebooting, you'll see the GRUB bootloader appear. Select Void Linux and hit Enter. A few seconds later, you'll land at the login prompt. Type the username and password you created earlier, and congratulations, you're officially inside your new Void Linux system. If you've reached this point, well done. You've successfully installed Void Linux. What you have now isn't just another Linux distribution. It's a clean, stable, and coherent environment that puts you completely in control. You've just learned how to partition, format, mount, and install everything step by step, all through a text-based installer that's logical and beautifully minimal. That's what makes Void Linux so unique. It doesn't try to impress you, it doesn't chase trends, it just works. Simple, consistent, and incredibly fast. Now this is a more realistic setup. As you can see, all the steps are simple. We've already gone through the base installation, learned how to create partitions, how to free up space, how to assign mount points. At this point, you basically know everything you need to install Void in dual boot. In the video you see on screen, the situation is a bit more complex. There are 2 hard drives and several operating systems already installed. But don't worry, the logic is always the same. When you already have another Linux system installed, you're not required to install another bootloader. After rebooting, you can simply boot into your existing Linux system, run OS Prober, and update the GRUB menu. This way, every time you start your computer, you'll be able to select and boot Void Linux directly from the list. The commands are very simple, just 2 steps for Debian-based systems. And that's it. GRUB will automatically detect Void and add it to your boot menu. If, however, you decide to install the bootloader during the Void setup, just remember one thing. Always install it on the entire disk, not inside a single partition, and pay attention to whether your system uses EFI or MBR. Generally, Void recognizes other operating systems automatically, but in case it doesn't, here are the commands on Void to install OS Prober, Runit, and update GRUB manually. And that's all it takes. With just a few commands, your boot menu will include Void Linux right next to your other systems, ready to use. And here we are, finally inside Void Linux. You'll notice right away as you start using it, it's lightning fast, responsive, and everything runs with surprising smoothness. But now comes the interesting part. We need to install some programs and update the system. Many of you might want to use KDE Plasma or even GNOME, yes, that one, with its rebooted System D style approach that feels a bit like Windows. I get it. In my current installation of Void, I have 3 different desktop environments. I did this precisely to create this guide and see how they behave, how they install, and how they coexist. And I have to admit it, GNOME on Void surprised me. Void stripped away that annoying layer of proprietary software and that feeling of closedness that GNOME software sometimes brings with it. It feels cleaner, more coherent, more free. That said, it's time to meet the true heart of Void Linux, its package manager, XBPS. It's simple, fast, and incredibly efficient. To update the system, to install a program, to search for a package in the repositories, that's it. A few commands, simple and direct. No magic, no heavy graphical tools. XBPS is lightning fast. It updates in seconds, installs without issues, and works in an extremely clean way. That's really all you need. A few simple, direct commands. No tricks, no bloated graphical tools, no layers that slow you down. XBPS is a rocket. I won't bore you with the more advanced options. These few commands are all you need to start using the system and immediately feel at home. In the end, you don't need dozens of tools or complications to understand Void Linux. You just need curiosity, 2 fingers on the keyboard, and a bit of willingness to explore. To install KDE Plasma on Void Linux is very simple. Just find the right packages and run the installation commands. I recommend also installing SDDM because in my experience I had some issues with XFCE's default login manager. With SDDM, everything works perfectly and integrates well with KDE. Here's the command to install Plasma with its display manager. This second command activates SDDM at boot. Once done, you can reboot and enjoy KDE Plasma, clean and fast as never before. With GNOME, things get a little trickier, and here it's worth explaining a fundamental aspect of Void Linux, its init system. Void doesn't use System D. Instead, it uses Runit, a minimalist, highly efficient init system fully aligned with the KISS philosophy. And here's the interesting part. GNOME is a desktop tightly bound to System D, not only for technical reasons, but also, let's say, political and ecosystem reasons. Behind GNOME stands Red Hat, and behind System D, also Red Hat. 1 + 1 = 2. This isn't a video about System D, but let me say this. Whether you like or dislike that approach, the mere existence of solid, working, credible alternatives like Void and Runit is great news for the entire Linux ecosystem. Runit is lightweight, fast, transparent. It doesn't hide behind opaque, complex services. Every service is a directory, every process is under control, every error is readable. It's a different way of conceiving an operating system, closer to the original Unix philosophy and more respectful toward the user. But let's go back to installing GNOME. If you've already installed SDDM earlier, there's no need for a text login or startx. You can use SDDM for GNOME too. Just enable it correctly, and GNOME will appear in the session menu as a graphical option. So here's how to install GNOME on Void Linux without using GDM. It's a perfectly reasonable choice because GDM is deeply tied to System D, and on Void it offers no real advantage. In this setup, we've already configured SDDM, so we'll use it for GNOME too. No need for startx or a text login. First, update the system. Then install the main GNOME packages, skipping the display manager unless you really want it. I don't. After that, we need to enable GNOME's essential services because Void doesn't use System D. Nothing starts automatically. With Runit, we do it manually by creating links to the key services. These 3 services ensure inter-process communication, permission management, and proper graphical session startup. Be careful though. As stated in the manual under the Power Management section, the elegend module can sometimes cause issues. It needs to be present in the system, but activating it can occasionally lead to problems. If anything goes wrong after rebooting, you can simply start SDDM manually from the login shell by running. From there, select the XFCE or KDE session, not GNOME. And once you're in the graphical environment, you can fix everything from there. I'll leave some helpful links in the description to relevant discussions on the Void Linux forum that may guide you through these cases. Now we can reboot the system. When we return to the SDDM login screen, we'll find GNOME among the available sessions. Just select it from the menu, enter your password, and log in. GNOME will start perfectly, fast, stable, and fully integrated with Runit. This way, we completely avoid systemd and GDM, keeping Void Linux consistent with its KISS philosophy: essential, controllable, free of unnecessary services, yet complete in everything that truly matters. One of the most fascinating and distinctive aspects of Void Linux is service management. Void doesn't use systemd, nor other complex init systems. It has chosen Runit, a minimalist solution that's extremely fast and incredibly simple to understand once you grasp its logic. Runit is what allows Void to boot in just a few seconds, maintaining clean, predictable, and stable behavior over time. Runit is based on a very straightforward concept. Each service is a folder containing a script called run, and to start it, you just create a symbolic link. No magic, no hidden daemons, no XML, just shell scripts. When the system boots, Runit goes through 3 phases called stages. In the first stage, file systems are mounted and basic components are initialized. In the second stage, the most important one, the heart of the system comes into play. Runs vdir, the process that starts and monitors all services declared as active. The third stage, finally, handles shutdown and orderly system closure. Services in Void are organized very clearly. All available ones are located in /ec/v. Inside this directory, you'll find a folder for each service, for example, /etc/ev/sshd, and so on. Each folder contains at least one file called run, which tells Runit how to start the service. Some also have a log subfolder with another run file dedicated to log management, and an optional finish file executed when the service stops. Runit is not just an init system. It's a way of thinking about service management in a completely transparent manner. Unlike systemd, which relies on unit files, targets, and internal databases, Runit is built entirely on the file system. Every service, every state, and every boot profile are represented by directories and symbolic links that you can see and modify yourself. All available services live in /etc/sv, but only those linked in /var/service are actually active. In fact, /var/service is just a symbolic link to /run/runit/runsvdir/current. That's where Runit looks to determine which services to start. When you create a symbolic link from this to /var/service, that service is instantly recognized and started. Interestingly, Void also supports multiple run profiles. In /etc/runit/runsvdir, you'll find something like this. Default is the normal profile, single is a reduced set used for maintenance mode, and current is the symbolic link that points to whichever profile is currently active. This design allows you to create custom profiles for laptops, servers, or specialized setups, simply by changing where current points. No special commands, no background daemons, just symbolic links. This architecture also explains why, if /var/service contains multiple display managers, like GDM, SDDM, and LightDM, Runit will attempt to start them all. There's no built-in exclusion or priority mechanism. Every link is a direct instruction to start a service. That's why you should keep only one display manager active at a time. This structure perfectly embodies the philosophy of Void Linux: transparency, control, and absolute simplicity. Runit hides nothing and enforces no automation. Everything that matters is visible in the file system, and every decision belongs entirely to you. Runit considers only the services inside the /var/service directory as active. Here, in fact, they are not copied, but simply linked via symlinks from /etc/sv. This means that enabling a service in Void is literally a linking operation. If you want, for example, to enable SSHD, you just need to run. As soon as you create the symbolic link, the service is immediately started and managed by Runit. No separate enable or start is needed. If instead you want to disable it, just remove the link. The simplicity of this logic is almost disarming. Everything is visible, everything is reversible. To check the status of a service, you can use the SV command. And to manage it manually, you can use SV up, SV down, or SV restart. These commands communicate directly with the runs v supervisor, which monitors each service and automatically restarts it if it should crash. Another elegant aspect of Runit is log management. Each service can have its own dedicated logger, defined in this folder. Inside this file, you normally find a line like SV log D automatically creates log files in the specified directory, adding timestamps and rotating them when they become too large. It's a lightweight but complete solution that doesn't need additional configurations. Creating a new custom service is equally simple. Suppose we want to start a Python script at system boot. We just need to create a new directory in /etc/sv. Inside the run file, we write. Then we make it executable, and finally enable it. From that moment on, Runit will take care of keeping it active, automatically restarting it if it should terminate unexpectedly. An interesting feature of Runit, less known but very useful, is the ability to create multiple service sets. For example, on a laptop, you might want to have a different group of services than your home server. In that case, you can create a second directory, like that, and populate it with symbolic links to the desired services. Then you just need to change the link located here to switch from one profile to another without modifying anything in the system. If something doesn't work as it should, diagnostics are very straightforward. You can check a service's logs with and verify errors or suspicious messages. If you've modified a run file, you can simply restart the service with. Remember that each run script must always start within this way and end with an exec command so that the main process is correctly tracked by Runit. Ultimately, understanding Runit means truly understanding Void Linux. It's a transparent system where each service is a simple readable script, every action is controllable, and every error is traceable. There are no opaque daemons or complex abstraction layers, just pure Unix logic, made of small tools that do one thing and do it well. Runit perfectly represents Void's philosophy, a system that aims for simplicity, clarity, and total control by the user. It's not just an init system, but a way of thinking. If Runit is the heart of Void, then XBPS is its brain. XBPS, acronym for X Binary Package System, is the package manager created specifically for Void Linux. It doesn't derive from APT, nor from Pacman, nor from DNF. It's an original project, written in C, designed to be lightweight, fast, and above all transparent. Its operation is based on a clear principle. Each package is a pre-compiled binary archive, signed and verified, installable and removable atomically. This means that update, installation, and removal operations always happen in a consistent and safe way, with automatic rollback in case of errors during the transaction. Unlike other package managers, XBPS doesn't hide behind scripts or complex wrappers. Everything revolves around a few intuitive commands. In reality, for daily use, 3 or 4 commands are enough to do practically everything. Update, install, remove, and search for packages. But understanding a bit more deeply how it works will allow you to solve any problems and keep Void stable even after years of use. To start, the most important command is, this updates the list of available packages and, immediately after, updates the entire system. It's the equivalent of apt update and apt upgrade, or DNF upgrade. You can also separate the two phases in this way. Installing a package is equally straightforward, and removal is done with. If you want to also remove unused dependencies, add -o, while with -r, you can also remove orphan packages or residual configurations. To search for a package in the official repositories, and to get detailed information about an installed package, XBPS, moreover, doesn't just manage binaries. Its ecosystem also includes XBPS-SAR, a complete build system that allows you to compile packages locally from templates. It's a bit like Arch's OR system, but much more linear and transparent. As stable as Void is, sometimes an update can interrupt the functioning of a service, the kernel, or the desktop environment. One of Void's great strengths is that, even in these cases, it provides all the tools to intervene and restore the situation manually, without black magic. First of all, if an update is interrupted or creates problems, you can reboot in single-user mode. At boot, in the GRUB menu, you can modify the kernel line and add at the end of the line starting with Linux. This will start Void in a maintenance shell without starting services or graphical interfaces. From there, you can use XBPS commands normally to repair or reinstall packages. For example, to reinstall a corrupted package. If instead you want to completely restore the situation before the update, you can use XBPS's transactional mode. Each operation is in fact recorded in this folder. You can list recent transactions with, and, if necessary, go back by repeating the inverse transaction. Another very effective method is to keep a previous kernel. Void maintains 2 kernel versions by default, so if after an update the new kernel doesn't boot correctly, from the GRUB menu you can select the Void Linux previous kernel entry to temporarily return to the previous one. In more serious situations, for example if the system won't boot at all, you can use a Void Live ISO, mount your root partition, and CRUT into the installed system to repair it manually. The typical steps are, and from there you can reinstall damaged packages, update XBPS, or even recreate the kernel. If you want to see all available commands and options in XBPS, simply type. You can also view the help for each tool in the XBPS suite. Each subcommand has its own help page, and for more detailed documentation, you can read the manual with. This displays every option, example, and explanation. Perfect if you want to explore the more advanced features of Void Linux's package management system. To clean the system of unused packages, to verify the consistency of installed packages, useful after crashes or forced shutdowns, to reinstall damaged packages, and to check all dependencies and available updates without applying them, where -n means dry run. Example shows what would be updated without actually doing it. XBPS perfectly embodies Void's philosophy. No frills, no unnecessary dependencies, no hidden automation. Every command is transparent and logical. Compared to the package managers of major distributions, XBPS doesn't hold your hand, but it leaves you in total control. If you want to update the system every day, you can do it in a second. If you want to keep everything frozen for months, you can do it just as easily. It's a package manager that respects the user, doesn't infantilize them. And for those who truly love Linux, this is freedom in its purest form. Void Linux isn't a distribution that breaks easily, but like any rolling release system, it can happen that after an update something no longer works as it should. Yet, one of Void's great strengths is precisely its ability to be repaired. XBPS provides several tools that, used with understanding, allow you to solve almost any problem without resorting to drastic reinstallations. The first useful command to know is, it serves to understand which package a particular system file belongs to. It's particularly useful when a program won't start and you receive an error about a missing library. You can immediately identify which package provides that file and reinstall it. For example, we'll return the name of the package containing that executable. Another fundamental operation is regenerating system configurations, especially after important updates or manual modifications. To do this, XBPS offers the command. The matterf option forces regeneration, while an A applies it to all installed packages. It's a safe and recommended procedure, for example, after a kernel change, after updating glibc, or if you notice strange behavior in services. This command ensures that all post-installation scripts are rerun, recreating the main configuration files where necessary. You can also use it on a single package, for example, to regenerate kernel files after a failed or incomplete update. In some more serious cases, it may be necessary to force the reinstallation of a package. XBPS handles this operation elegantly, without breaking dependencies. The -F force option tells XBPS to reinstall the package even if it already appears to be present. It's very useful, for example, when a package is corrupted, files are missing, or a library has been accidentally deleted. If you instead suspect that the package database is damaged, you can verify it with This command checks the integrity of all installed packages. If it finds inconsistencies or corrupted metadata, they will be reported and you can repair the affected packages with. It's a less-known tool, but very powerful, which often alone is enough to resolve dependency errors or incomplete installations. Another frequent situation concerns the interruption of an update, perhaps due to power or connection loss. XBPS is designed to safely handle even this case. During installation or update operations, it creates temporary transactions in this folder. If the system stops midway, at reboot, XBPS will signal the interrupted transaction and you can complete or cancel it. Alternatively, you can simply rerun. XBPS will automatically understand which packages need to be restored or completed. Finally, it's worth remembering a small lifesaver. You can always reinstall the entire kernel and its modules with, and then regenerate the initramfs with this. This command solves many boot problems after failed updates or missing modules. Void's philosophy is all here: transparency and control. XBPS doesn't try to hide what it does, doesn't protect the user from themselves, and doesn't apply unrequested automation. It provides you with the tools, but the power remains in your hands. And when you learn to use them, you understand that Void is a distribution that can break, but can also always be repaired. These are all things you can easily find online, but since this is a mega super ultra guide, I decided to include a few practical commands that many of you will probably want to use with Void Linux. You'll also find them in a PDF linked in the description, ready to copy and paste into your terminal. But please, always double-check everything you paste, even if it comes from me. Never run commands blindly. Read, analyze, understand. There can always be typos, errors, or things that might not fit your setup or needs. Add the Void non-free repository. This enables the non-free repository, allowing you to install proprietary firmware, codecs, and drivers, especially useful for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPUs that don't work out of the box. Install recommended and development packages. These are general utilities, compilers, libraries, and development tools. They include essential CLI tools, disk and file system utilities, development tools, video and media support, security and authentication tools, graphical libraries. In short, this command gives you a solid base for both everyday use and software compilation. Install fonts. This installs a wide selection of high-quality fonts, including Noto fonts, Fira Code, Fira Sans, Hack, Font Awesome, Ubuntu, and Liberation fonts. It's a complete set for both daily desktop use and development. Install graphics drivers. This installs open-source AMD drivers and Vulkan support. If you're using NVIDIA or Intel, replace the AMD packages with those specific to your GPU. These ensure full hardware acceleration for gaming, video playback, and 3D rendering. Install icon and cursor themes. A touch of style. Papyrus provides a clean, modern icon set, while Breeze adds a smooth, elegant cursor theme. Install Flatpak. If you want to expand your app availability, you can install Flatpak. Personally, I prefer keeping the system clean and native, but it's fully supported if you need it. And that's it. Nothing transcendental, really. These are simply the compromises of refusing to follow preset choices, of wanting to stay coherent with an idea, with a vision. Because yes, you can choose. And Void Linux has chosen to be coherent, consistent, efficient, linear, logical, and simple. Everything is at your fingertips, everything is manageable, everything is easily controllable, everything is fast, and most importantly, everything is stable. I've been using it for about 6 months now, and recently it's become my main system. And believe me, in over 20 years of Linux, I never would have imagined relying on a rolling release for my daily work machine. I'm a Debian user, I've used it for decades, and I love it. And yet, Void Linux surprised me. Actually, to be precise, it stunned me. I love it. And I find it an injustice toward good software and good technology that this distribution isn't installed on far more computers. We're flooded with improvised projects, useless clones, distributions that exist only to ride the trend of the moment. Void Linux, instead, deserves every single byte of the space it takes on your hard drive. Honestly, everyone should try it at least once. Then, of course, you can decide whether to keep it or not, but give it a chance. I still don't understand how I had its ISO on my USB stick for years without ever installing it. It's absurd. I did it by pure chance, in a moment of calm, among the hundreds of distros and projects that go through my head every day. And I arrived here. And I hope this video brings you towards something important too, something worth discovering. Those who follow me know that I never sugarcoat things. If I have to criticize something, I do it without mercy and without filters. But it's rare to find projects I genuinely feel are mine, that I admire in every detail, in every line of code, in every choice. Void is one of those. I can't find any real flaws in it, maybe two, but they're almost irrelevant. The first concerns Hyperland. Some say Void doesn't include it in its repositories for political rather than technical reasons. Honestly, I haven't found any solid evidence for that theory. I believe it's more of a philosophical than political decision, but still coherent with the nature of Void, a rolling release designed for stability, and perhaps Hyperland isn't mature enough yet for that kind of system. The second concerns the software repository, which is slightly smaller than those of larger distributions like Debian or Arch. But here too, let's be honest, what's their works? It's carefully curated, regularly updated, and built with a level of quality rarely seen elsewhere. I didn't do it, but you can install Flatpak. It's very easy and fully supported. However, allow me a personal reflection. Would you put 5 doors on a coupe? To me, the purity and coherence of this distribution loses a bit of its charm with Flatpak. But that's just my view, my philosophy of technology. You are, of course, free to make your own choices and follow your own path. I think our journey has come to an end. As you can see, there isn't much more to add. Void Linux is something to discover by using it, day after day. It's a project that doesn't try to amaze, doesn't try to please everyone. It simply does what it's supposed to do, and it does it impeccably. You'll find the complete text guide on my website. What can I say about this distribution? It's very special and greatly underestimated. I discovered it by chance, and it has become my go-to distribution. I hope it remains forever true to its philosophy. No frills, no distractions. I don't know if it will appeal to you too, but I can tell you it deserves a chance. You have all the tools you need to easily install and manage it, and there are forums for support. I hope I've been helpful and that this guide has been useful to many of you in marking a turning point in your journey through the fantastic world of Linux.